video, you're going to see the future.
Hello there, you awakening wonder. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day and your precious life to spend it with me. I value you and appreciate you, and this is a real opportunity for us to be together and try and understand what's happening in the world, because sometimes it's a little bit confusing, let's be honest. Hi, blessed old bird on the locals chat. Hello, Mabel Queenie. Can't see the word Mabel without my heart jumping. Name of my oldest daughter. Paul Schober in the Rumble chat. Kyle Rhino. If Gaza wants Tesla charging stations, they should be allowed to have them. I feel like I've missed a lot of the context of that conversation. Wherever you're watching us on X or YouTube, we'll be there for a while to chat with you, and it's quite a lot of important things to talk about. All these federal secrets, I'm really going to focus on that, like the JFK, RFK, senior stuff getting released. We're going to get into that, and the rumours about Edward Snowden being pardoned. Have any of you heard about that? Do you think that would actually happen? And how would you feel? Let me know in the comments and chat. Would you see like the pardoning of Edward Snowden as a kind of moral endorsement of the Trump administration? Because we've got lots of areas of inquiry. Hello there, Raspberries S648 Stress in the Rumble chat. Hey, if you don't have Rumble Premium yet, you should really consider getting Rumble Premium, because for $9.99 a month, you don't only get additional content from me, you get additional content from Glenn Greenwald, one of the people who broke the Snowden story. You get additional content from Crowder, who you've got to say, that guy pushes it, doesn't he, with all that, like, you know, prove me wrong stuff like he does. I mean, that he's funny and he's a man of God. Now, who else do you get more of? Bongino, the streaming Rogan, would you say? You get a lot of different content. Anyway, sign up for my stuff. Also, I'm only going to make this competition available to our members on Locals and Rumble Premium. I'm at Mar-a-Lago myself, as a matter of fact, next Thursday. Tuesday. Do you get Tuesday and Thursday muddled up because they're the T days, or do you speak another language where that's not the case? Anyway, look, if you want to come, I'm going to think of a question in a minute. I don't know what the question's going to be, but something funny. Tim Pool, you see that? Yeah, Tim Pool, man. Welcome, Tim Pool. That's pretty exciting. I'll be at Mar-a-Lago on Tuesday next week, and if you want, I'm going to give away 2 tickets, and you can come to Mar-a-Lago, but you'll probably have to send me photos of yourself and stuff, because there'll be Secret Service gear going on. What's really funny is on the invite, I'm getting like an award, and Mike Tyson's getting an award, and on it, it's sort of, there's a picture of Donald Trump, but when you look underneath Donald Trump, it says, honoured invited guest, Donald Trump. Like, invited. It makes me feel, he ain't coming. So, but anyway, he might. He's honoured and invited. Anyway, so I'm going to think of a question about, Mar-a-Lago. But I don't know it to be something you can answer on the internet. Otherwise, it's futile, isn't it? And also, I don't want to give the prize to someone who doesn't actually come. That would be bloody annoying. So, you've got to commit to it, all right? But I haven't thought the question yet. So we're going to do that Doge stuff. There's some stuff about the various states that have banned mRNA shots. And we've not really touched on the fact that Pfizer have got enough money to have a Super Bowl ad. We're going to look at that in a minute and have a real laugh about it. We're going to talk as well about Elon Musk being at the Oval Office and like having his kid there, sort of like the weird and interesting visual dynamics of contemporary politics and the movements of power. Like, is Elon Musk's power unconscionable? Let me know in the comments and chat. Or is it merely a different version of the kind of deep state interests that we've feared and presumed nefarious? Is all power bad? Not necessarily, is it? Because, the power of God, for example, is a loving and fantastic power. Also in that, like Anderson Cooper from CNN, who's like meant to be proper news, called someone a dick. And I just think that the entire kind of complexion of political discourse is really altering, and as a result, really, of, independent media and then the rise of, notably, and I suppose most obviously, political figures like Musk and Trump themselves. But before we get into all of that, ending up ultimately on Rumble Premium, our home, or Locals, where we make fully available, our fantastic content. We're going to be on X and YouTube, in spite of the fact that I'm actually involved in legal action with YouTube because of their decision to demonetize the channel there, at the behest, at least it seemed like that externally, of the British government, showing relationships between big tech and government power that, I think are sort of certainly warrant investigations, although I'm not alleging anything illegal at this stage. Let's acknowledge now that we live in a new world where if Elon Musk wants to change his handle on X to hairy balls, then CNN are going to have to say hairy balls on the television, which I would have been so into when I was a kid, wouldn't you? Like, if you could actually make the news say hairy balls, I'd think, wow, this is incredible. I'm psychic.
Now, the disruptor-in-chief, Elon Musk, who apparently has adopted the alias, at least he changed his social media handle to Hairy Balls, tweeted this morning, "Democracy in America is being destroyed by judicial coup. An activist judge is not a real judge." And as
that's really interesting, isn't it? Because it's an interesting point and conversation piece. An activist judge is not a real judge, and that's true, isn't it? Because a judge, by their nature, would have to be objective. But because he's called Hairy Balls, you have to say, I don't know whether or not I can take you seriously. But then why would taking things seriously even be important? Why not have a trickster discourse? Why not allow new energy into politics? Let me know in the comments and chat what you think about that. Certainly it's pretty crazy in my land, England. Keir Starmer, he's our leader. He's a globalist. He's a bit like Justin Trudeau or Kamala Harris. He's a sort of a political cipher in a way. I do try to pray for him every day. I pray, Lord, that you will guide him, that you will guide Keir Starmer, that you will guide all of the leaders, that your kingdom may come. But when I see Keir Starmer, I know he's probably Catholic or something. I mean, he probably has got a religious life, but he's not acting like it because he's doing a lot of weird stuff. He says he's the first. He makes this really extraordinary claim to be I'm the first world leader in history to have an HIV test. What does that mean? What does that actually mean? How do you know? I mean, like, which world leaders do you think have had HIV tests? That is a good way to actually adjudicate these Mar-a-Lago tickets. Here's world leaders that I think have definitely had HIV tests. Macron, for sure, innit? I mean, have you seen, like, his missus and that? Trudeau probably had one just to sort of make a point. Oh, yeah, I'm doing it. Like, wouldn't he? Some people, like, I mean, look, I don't want to cast aspersions on the sitting president of the United States of America, but in the 1980s, he was large and in charge when he was getting amongst it. So it will be sensible. I've had one. Haven't you had one? I was putting it about when I was a kid. I don't know if you know that about me. I used to be a drug addict. And then I'm somewhat fond of promiscuous encounters. I've always tried to keep it quiet, though, because it masks the nefarious underbelly. Let's have a look at Keir Starmer's audacious claims. And, like, in a way, they've reaped what they've sown. Like, all of, like, the CNNs and the legacy media and the institutions of power, they deserve berserkers and disruptors because they were liars and inauthentic and appalling. In a minute, we're going to be comparing some of J.D. Vance's rhetoric around AI with Kamala Harris's. When you see sort of her absurd conduct, you feel like, yeah, how could we have voted for those people?
I did an HIV test. It's really simple. It's really painless.
What year do you think this is? Freddie Mercury died of AIDS about 100 years ago. Right, now then, there's one thing. Don't die of ignorance. Wear a rubber Johnny. Right, wear a rubber Johnny on your Prinkleberry. Like, we all know about AIDS now. No one's thinking like that anymore, are they? We all know. Not only that, there's that, what's it called? The tri-cocktail remedy. Like, we're at the point where HIV can be pharmaceutically abated. Not all pharma is bad, baby. Not all pharma is bad. Just if it's in the wrong hands of profiteers and bureaucrats and buccaneers, then you're in trouble. Okay, let's see Keir Starmer. Oh, you radical. Now, I had an AIDS test. It's not as bad as everybody said. To make sure it was worth doing, I used intravenous drugs with strangers and shared needles and had unprotected anal sex just to make sure that it wasn't a wasted test.
Really painless. The test can be sent to you through the post. It's National Testing Week, so it's free.
National Testing Week. Every week's testing week with that geezer in charge of the country. What are you trying to do? Normalise more medical procedures so you can push mRNA technologies so that you can have people that worked for the government now working for Moderna, so you can have the government doing big deals with Moderna right after that pandemic when it come clear that Big Pharma were lying to us the whole time. I've had an AIDS test. It's perfectly simple. They sent me a letter. What's the point of having an AIDS test if you ain't got AIDS? How's he getting AIDS? How's he getting AIDS, that geezer? Oh, you can get it from blood transfusion. Have you had a blood transfusion? Have you used intravenous drugs? Have you had anal sex unprotected with somebody you don't know? Oh no, it's getting a bit hot in here. I might need another test. Send me one in the post. I put a Q-tip down my dibble dabble, and then I held it under the light, and it turns out I got the all clear.
Free, and it's literally just a little prick of the finger, a little drop of blood.
A little prick, just a little prick, not mine. Mine's a lovely thing, it is. I mean, it looks a bit stringy at the tip. I've said too much.
The finger, a little drop of blood, goes into a capsule, two
a test is.
Two other mixing fluids, test done. Really, really easy to do, very, very simple.
Of course it is. Why would it be hard? It's not that hard to become an intravenous heroin addict and inject yourself. It's not that hard if you have children that require urgent and difficult medical attention. Why is he pushing AIDS tests? What's going on?
To do, very, very simple, and really important to do it because there's just under 5,000 people who have got HIV but don't know. I found out today that I'm the first Prime Minister to have done this. Now, that's not about me.
No, that's why I didn't mention it. It's not about me, so I don't even mention it. I'm the first Prime Minister in history to put a cotton bud down my dibble-dabble, to hold it under the light to see what's what, even though I've nothing to worry about because I've never even done anything. But there's 100,000 people who are sneaking around with HIV. They don't even know about that.
Now, that's not about me. I'm surprised. But I would just encourage other leaders, community leaders, those that can...
What? Other leaders? Why is he encouraging other leaders to have AIDS tests? Have you looked out your window? Look how crazy the world is. What's going to happen in the Middle East? How are these shifting populist power dynamics going to play out in a technologically advanced civilization? What are we going to do with this crisis of meaning, where everyone's experiencing a total detachment from love and from God? Well, I know what we should do is we get the world leaders, get Netanyahu and his dick, get the leaders of Hamas and their dicks, get everyone's dicks and test everyone straight down the dick. You know, we'll hold down to a light, we'll see what's what. I'll tell you what we'll do, we'll stretch our testicle back. What a pointless waste of time! What a pointless waste of time. Sometimes the theatre is exposed by their own ludicrousness.
Those that can reach right into different groups within our communities. Do the test yourself, show other people, talk it through, explain.
Everyone line up, let's do the test ourselves. You get out your dick, push that down your little dicky bird hole. Now I'm Prime Minister. Come on now, I'm the first Prime Minister. No, Churchill never done this. Churchill never put a bead down his dick. I tell you, Maggie Thatcher, she never done nothing on her dick. Clement Attlee, he never done nothing down his dick. None of these. Lord Palmerston, he never put nothing down his dick. I'm the number one dicky bird. I'm the number one dicky bird round here. And if you think it's childish to say dick on the news, don't watch Anderson Cooper on CNN because she's saying it, baby.
We'll talk it through, explain, because, we have to try and make sure just as many people as possible do get tested.
What? That's your job? Make sure as many people as possible get tested. You'll concentrate, mate, on what's going on. Have a proper COVID inquiry. Have a look what went on during that period. Look at how the legacy media behaved during it. Look at how government bureaucracies behaved. Look at how much profiteering was done by Big Pharma. Look at how Big Tech censored the truth. Look at how right now there's a crisis of government in your country. People don't want to live there no more. The farmers are rebelling and revolting in the streets of London because they feel like you're unfairly and unjustly taxing them. People think you're breaking all sorts of pledges and promises when it comes to taxation and governance. You can't get out of trouble you're in by sticking a little Q-tip down your dick up. Right, now listen, the world's falling apart. Don't worry, I've got something this is gonna put a smile on your face. Here you go. It's called politics, darling. My word. These are the people that are leading us. Okay, nothing to worry about there. So, in case you think it's sort of outrageously childish to behave in such a manner, have a look at what's going on in the rest of the world. In a minute, wherever you're watching us, X, YouTube, Rumble. Yeah, Roselle in the locals chat, a rubber Johnny on my peridinkle. That's right. That's how you run the UK, the nation of Elizabeth's 1 and 2, and Victoria, and Shakespeare, and the Beatles. These guys, put a dicky on my dicky bird, put something down my spile. Let's see what old John Bolton says. The vestiges of old power appear to linger and lurk like farts. John Bolton, warmonger and leading architect of the 2003 invasion of Iraq, shows the farewell gift he's received from USAID. This is brilliant. If you weren't angry about USAID 10 seconds ago, wait till you see John Bolton's ridiculous hand grenade present.
I might say I've got some personal experience here. I was in charge of policy and budget at USAID during the Reagan administration when we undertook a major effort to fix it. And I'm going to show you my farewell present from AID. You can see it's a hand grenade, and it says on it, John R. Bolton, truest Reaganaut.
That's not what I put on there. I'd have put truest, and then I would transgress through curse words. It's a bit on the nose, isn't it? Giving John Bolton, warmonger, facilitator of the deaths of 1 million Iraqi children and countless American and British service personnel in an unnecessary, unwinnable war that led to the birth of ISIS, among other things. Here you go, mate. We want to commemorate your great service, John. Here's a hand grenade with a platitude on it.
Reaganaut. AID 1983. This is a style of government.
It's a style of government. They're all idiots. Oh no, they're all idiots. They're not cleverer than you. They're not cleverer than you. Don't do what they tell you. Disobey. Rebel. Rise up.
And that's the way we approached it.
Oh, was that on Piers? Should I go on Piers? Let me know in the comments and chat. They keep asking me to go on there. The thing is with Piers Morgan, I have sort of... let's see. Let me know in the comments and chat on X and on Rumble and Locals. Just simply put PMY for yes, PMN for no. And in a minute, we're going to be doing a competition for all our Rumble Premium subscribers where you can win 2 tickets to Mar-a-Lago to join me next Tuesday for a spectacular week. But you got to be a Rumble Premium member. You get me, you get Tim Pool, you get Crowder, you get a whole bunch of stuff. What are his ratings? That's a very sensible question, but do your research yourself, Marga. Okay, listen, I've got to think of a good question for the Mar-a-Lago. Can someone think of a question for the Mar-a-Lago thing? But then you can't answer the question. Anyway, Trump says he does not see J.D. Vance as his successor. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? Because he is, in a sense, in a legalistic way, he is his successor in the event something happened while he was in office. But how do the power dynamics of the current administration play out, do you reckon?
Do you view Vice President J.D. Vance as your successor, the Republican nominee in
I met that guy.
Successor, the Republican nominee in 2028?
No, but he's very capable. I mean, I don't think that I think you have a lot of very capable.
That's a very strong no, wasn't it? That's like he got no doubt in his mind. No. Do you think the media benefit from creating fissures and tension between current members of the administration? And do you think there's a sort of an agenda to drive a wedge between Trump and Musk in particular, if that's the main axis, forgive the word, of power?
A lot of very capable people. So far, I think he's doing a fantastic job. It's too early. We're just starting.
But by the time you get to the midterms, he's going to be looking for an endorsement.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that this has been the greatest opening, almost 3 weeks, in the history of the presidency.
It's definitely been the fastest and the most stuff happening.
We've done so much so fast, and we really had to, because they have really, what they've done to our country is so sad. It's so sad. We're going to be bigger, better, and stronger than ever before.
That's fascinating. Who should be the next president of the United States? Let me know in the comments and chat. And in a minute, we're going to be looking at Whitney Webb's remarks that the deep state cannot be easily undone just through populism and the arrival of a new political party, even if it is one that's caused a lot of excitement, whether positive or negative, on both sides of the aisle. Okay, in a minute, we're going to be talking to you about, importantly, we're going to do Doge first. Yeah, we're going to be talking about Elon Musk's visit, or the sort of, in a sense, is an Oval Office address. We're going to be talking about that and like the sort of the interesting visual dynamics of like Elon Musk and his kid and all that stuff, and how Elon Musk's sort of playful puerility is altering the vocabulary when it comes to news reporting, like Anderson Cooper saying dick and all this kind of stuff, and also just it's changing the whole tone. And Tom Bro will still be on X and YouTube for a little while before making our eventual way to Rumble, our sweet home where we can stream sweetly and freely. Because not freely and sweetly. Because think about it, when all them things kicked off, man, Rumble, double loyal, and it's paying off for Rumble right now. Okay, we're going to have a quick message now from one of our partners. See you in a second. Ever see your dog slowing down or having health issues and wonder what you can do to make it better? Well, my friend, add rough greens to your dog's food for 90 days and you'll see changes that will amaze you. Guaranteed. Invented by a naturopathic doctor, Dennis Black, Rough Greens wants to invite you to give your pup the Rough Greens 90-day challenge. In the first 30 days, you will see shinier coats and increased energy. Wow, look at that shiny pup. By day 60, your dog will have a stronger immune system, less shedding, and improved joint function, all due to the live nutrients you've added to their diet. By day 90, your dog will be speaking to you in English and demanding a full review of how US aid has been spent over the last 4 years. That one's an exaggeration. You're going to see better digestion, reduced inflammation, improved heart health, and you might even have reduced their cancer risk. Fetch a free Jumpstart trial bag for your dog today. Go to roughgreens.com, use the promo code Russell. That's RUFF Greens. Rough Greens. Roughgreens.com and use the promo code Russell and just cover shipping. You don't have to change your dog's food to improve your dog's health. Just add a scoop of Rough Greens. Give it a little scoop. It's better than when it's coming out the other end, baby. Take advantage of our special offer, Rough Greens. Musk and Trump, best friends forever or rift waiting to happen? That's the question that I will be asking, and indeed am asking now. There's no question that this is a different type of political era with a new vocabulary and a peculiar lexicon that years before would have been implausible. Do you remember when Trump was on Twitter and everyone used to think, this is extraordinary, isn't it? The president on Twitter in the dead of night. Now, Twitter is in the Oval Office in the form of its owner, Elon Musk, who's changed his name to Harry Bowles, and now everyone's got to sort of accept that discourse. But did the flat puerility of legacy media discourse prior to the election, all of these sort of pious people, Brian Stelter, hey, come on, why don't you listen to me? You know, like, media has changed. Politics has changed. The world has changed. Of course, that was going to mean new elites and the emergence of new leaders. How are CNN and the legacy media going to cope? And what do we think when Elon Musk plainly admits to making errors? For example, one of the US AID stories that really caught my attention, let me know in the comments and chat if you observed this, was that $50 million of condoms have been sent to Gaza. Now, you sort of think these guys are in some pretty serious trouble. That's not exactly the prophylactic they require. One of the other ones was the Iraqi Sesame Street story. So I now don't know what's true and what isn't, once again, and I don't like living in that kind of bewilderment. So we're going to have a look at the arc of these stories, starting with a little of the address. Note the visual dynamics. Elon Musk brings his kid places. How do you see that? Do you see that like, you know, Hitler kissing babies, or do you see it as sort of like kind of cute that he's, you know, it's bring your kid to work day?
If there's not a good feedback loop from the people to the government, and if you have rule of the bureaucrat, if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president and the Senate and the House, then we don't live in a democracy. We live in a bureaucracy. So it's incredibly important that we close that feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public's elected representatives, the president, the House, and the Senate, decide what happens, as opposed to a large, unelected bureaucracy. This is not to say that there are good people who are in the federal bureaucracy, but you can't have an autonomous federal bureaucracy. You have to have one that is responsive to the people. That's the whole point of a democracy. And if you looked at this, if you asked the founders today and said, what do you think of the way things have turned out? Well, we have this unelected, fourth unconstitutional branch of government, which is the bureaucracy, which has, in a lot of ways, currently more power than any elected representative. And this is not something that people want, and it's not. It does not match the will of the people, so it's just something we've got to fix. And then we've also got to address the deficit. So we've got a $2 trillion deficit, and if we don't do something about this deficit, the country's going bankrupt. I mean, it's really astounding that the interest payments alone on the national debt exceed the Defense Department budget. which is shocking because we spend a lot of money on defense. But and if that just keeps going, we're essentially going to bankrupt the country. So what I really want to say is, like, it's not optional for us to reduce the federal expenses. It's essential. It's essential for America to remain solvent as a country, and it's essential for America to have the resources necessary to provide things to its citizens and not simply be servicing vast amounts of debt.
Tulsi Gabbard has been confirmed. We'll be covering that in detail over the coming... Well, about detail. We'll talk about it over the coming hour. So what's really interesting there, a few things. Visually, the child being there is sort of fascinating and somewhat anomalous, although there are sort of photographs of JFK with his kid under the desk, man, sort of really important and iconic American political images. Some of you will note Donald Trump, who's not a man who looks at ease in repose, in so much as he's a central figure, isn't he? He's a sort of a leading player, and when he's on the sidelines and someone else talking, it's sort of visually... It's a visual curio to observe. But if you bring your attention to the content of what Elon Musk's actually saying, everything was extremely articulate. I mean, that's not an idiot, is it? That's not a garbled idiot. That's someone explaining autonomous bureaucracies are by their nature anti-democratic, and where do you draw the line when it comes to empowerment and authority of agencies and administrations? And I suppose the answer is always going to be, in a democracy, is it? Let me know in the comments and chat. Accountability. So it's difficult not to get distracted by the sort of jarring visual dynamics of a man in a baseball cap with a little boy coming out of his coat like a sort of a Muppet man. You know what I mean? When the Muppets sort of stand in a column like that. That's a little bit what it made me think about. But the actual content of what he was saying when it comes to bureaucracies is, one, I think, true, and two, certainly in alignment with the rhetoric that preceded the election, i.e. it's not like they campaigned on saying we're going to have real big state and we're going to give pay rises to everyone within the FBI and in the sort of deep-rooted power systems of bureaucracy. They didn't say that, did they? They said they're going to slash and burn and get rid of government. And because most of us hate government now, because governments have been so appalling, we sort of, in a sense, embrace it. But one thing to consider is, are we actually, in a way, being distracted by these sort of visually exciting and stimulating people and these extraordinary policies, and perhaps not paying enough attention to what's happening? Let me know in the comments and chat what you think about that. Here's CNN apparently attempting to drive a wedge between Trump and Musk by claiming that Musk pushed Trump to the side. And doesn't that make you think, everything's getting totally trivialized the whole time? Keir Starmer pushing cotton buds down his dick hole. These guys sort of focusing continually on the personal dynamics, although personal dynamics will always be impactful. This is an extraordinary and unusual time. We should focus on the tectonic movements where possible.
Who was the one standing, taking most of the questions, having the president in this odd, jarring setting, looking up to him? Well, it was Elon. This was Musk's first press conference since Trump's election, and he took over. Trump literally, in all these images, kind of looked like he'd been pushed off to the side because Elon was the center of it.
He hasn't been pushed off to the side. That's just for the framing of the camera. He's not been pushed off to the side. That's where he would have been at the beginning, because you'd have to move that desk that looks like it's mahogany. That would be like, excuse me, we're just going to push you off to the side, Donald. Okay, hairy balls, do whatever you tell me, man. I'm just going to comply. Yeah, that's just the framing of the shot. You don't need to worry about that.
Elon was the center of it. I mean, at times Trump seemed annoyed. I mean, it wasn't just that Musk dominated. He did speak for about 20 of the 32 minutes. So about 63.5% if you're counting of the time.
Oh, God, that's so puerile, isn't it? But isn't it that the questions were geared towards areas of his expertise and personal responsibility? We shouldn't be surprised, should we?
It was that Musk physically owned the entire event. He and his child were the center of the attention.
They physically owned it. A boy king and his baseball cap wearing father sucked up all the attention like a vacuum cleaner made out of minds and mouths. An extraordinary piece of reporting from CNN right there. Hey, wherever you're watching us, X, YouTube, Rumble, Locals, whatever. If you're not a member of Locals or Rumble Premium, then you will not be able to correctly answer this question. I want to answer, and it's got to be about Mar-a-Lago. The question's got to be about Mar-a-Lago. If you sign up to Rumble Premium, then I'm going to ask you guys listeners on Rumble Premium and Locals a question about Mar-a-Lago, and you can join me there on Tuesday for a night with Mike Tyson. Fingers crossed, baby. Could get crazy. Let's have a look at Elon Musk sort of blithely admitting that some of the things he says are not true. In particular, the $50 million of condoms. And let me know how you feel about this. Isn't it sort of somehow refreshing to hear someone? Is it refreshing, or is it sort of awesome that there's a level of power where you can just sort of say, well, listen, some of the things I say are going to be wrong. Can you imagine Biden or Kamala saying such a thing?
and this is big numbers. Talking about $100 to $200 billion a year. Sure. Serious money.
Mr. Musk, you said on X that an example of the fraud that you have cited was $50 million of condoms was sent to Gaza. But after fact-check this, it apparently Gaza in Mozambique, and the program was to protect them against HIV. So can you correct the statements? It wasn't sent to Hamas, actually. It was sent to Mozambique, which makes sense why condoms was sent there.
Yeah.
And how can we make sure that all the statements that you said were correct, so we can trust what you say?
Well, first of all, some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes. I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms to anywhere, frankly. I'm not sure that's something Americans would be really excited about. And that is really an enormous number of condoms, if you think about it.
That is a good point. I mean, yeah, do you want America to be sending $50 million of condoms to it anywhere? I suppose it becomes particularly absurd when you consider the crisis in Gaza, but then when you start contemplating that, some of Trump's rhetoric elsewhere about potential American activity, construction activity in Gaza seems once again absurd. I would say that in general, it's pretty intriguing to see press conferences like this. When I was growing up, people had said that politics had become mundane and people had checked out. In retrospect, there were people like Maggie Thatcher and Ronald Reagan. But now, this is astonishing, isn't it? Isn't this an astonishing spectacle that includes sort of common sense rhetoric, extraordinary descriptions and definitions of the inner workings of bureaucracies, kids on their dad's shoulders? I mean, there's a lot going on. Pretty stimulating, I would say. And sometimes you just have to kind of agree. Do Americans want $50 million worth of condoms being sent anywhere, Gaza or Mozambique or anywhere?
If it went to Mozambique instead of Gaza, I'm like, okay, that's not as bad, but still, why are we doing that?
Can you talk?
I don't think Trump looks that bothered. I think he looks sort of like, I think he's enjoying it, though. Like he's listening to a podcast about condoms. That is a lot of condoms. It's a lot of condoms. A lot of condoms. I used a lot of condoms back in the day. Let's have a look at Anderson Cooper. And in a way, when we're sort of talking about the sort of dynamics and aesthetics of political conversation, it's not right. He's got his kid on his shoulders. He's talking about condoms. He's changed his name to Hairy Balls. What are we comparing it to? The authoritative media of yesteryear. Authority should be an indication of competence and trust. You don't trust the media. I don't trust the media. They lie all of the time. Here, though, Anderson Cooper lapses into the kind of discourse that, in a sense, language that undermines yet another aspect of their authority, the fact that they use proper words and don't say dumb stuff like, I'm called Harry Balls, here's the news. Here's Anderson Cooper calling someone a dick while talking about Doge, of all things.
It was surreal, but I got to tell you, I know what you're not showing here. Musk gave 7 specific examples off the top of his head of where the corruption and fraud were. I know you didn't play the clips. He was talking about a contractor that had a 3-month contract. He was paid for 20 years. He was talking about welfare benefits that were being paid to someone that was technically 150 years old. He was talking about line items in the Treasury that had no justification.
There's no he doesn't present any actual evidence.
Well, he's standing there in the Oval Office. Do you expect him to come in with 10,000 pages? And I have to be clear, to complain about this administration about transparency, when this president takes open questions on a daily basis, yet Joe Biden didn't show up for a press conference this 6 months, is insane. Well, these guys are being extremely transparent. They don't have to sit there and take the questions, but they do. It's all on the website. It's all out there.
It's not transparency to say things that have no factual background. I mean, to say we're cutting, we've found $1 billion or $1 trillion in waste with no specifics, that's just talk. That's not transparency.
It's 23 days in here, guys. 23 days. You're talking about $2.3 billion that was saved last year. These guys are saving $2.3 billion a day.
Right, but
it's incredible.
That's what they're saying. But where's the proof?
You're waiting. You're not going to be satisfied till he shows up with 10,000 pages. I think
but 10,000 pages.
Yeah.
He's giving very specific things,
yes,
but he's not actually giving any evidence of that.
It's all going to come, because what they also said was, if we have to go to Congress, we'll go to Congress.
Right, but
we'll show where it is.
Some of the details that have come out, like the $59 million spent on luxury hotels, it's actually not. You're
talking about the FEMA money that was abused for migrants. That was.
Yeah.
FEMA money for migrants, that's okay now?
No, I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's okay. Don't put words in my mouth.
So would you stop that? Would you stop that process?
Don't be a dick. What I'm saying is the portrayal by him is.
I like that the guy sort of went, hey, we don't do that. Hey, we don't do that. That's pretty interesting. The world's changing rapidly and radically, and perhaps we oughtn't be surprised, given what Americans voted for, that we now have Elon Musk in the Oval Office in a black MAGA cap, with his kid peeking out of his coat, explaining somewhat articulately the new changes when it comes to government employees and the delivery on their intention to slash expenditure and reduce jobs and to become more transparent and open. And neither should we be surprised by their fallibility. This is an extraordinary age we're participating in. We're not all just victims here. We're all on X and online making audacious claims, not examining perhaps sufficiently our own perspectives, biases and prejudices, allowing power to be formed on the basis of urges and sometimes unconscious impulses. I would say Trump is the president that the world's got. Trump's the president that the world needs. And I'm saying world instead of America quite deliberately. Although plainly there are other forces, national and international, that have to be considered. Elon Musk and Donald Trump are perhaps the type of leaders that the age demands. Certainly if you believe in electoral mandates, that's precisely what's happened. And what they're doing ain't at odds with what they campaigned on. But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comments and chat, wherever you're watching us right now. X, YouTube, Rumble Premium. Join Rumble Premium right now. It costs like $9.99 a month. If you use my code, you get a month free. Plus, you get access to additional content from me, like my show, Break Bread. You also get additional content from Crowd and a whole bunch of people. And you get the ability to win tickets to see me and Mike Tyson at Mar-a-Lago. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's the fact of the matter. To see me and Mike Tyson at Mar-a-Lago fighting in the nude. No, it's like he's going to give a speech, I'm going to give a speech. Anyway, so join up to Rumble Premium and I'll think of a question in a minute. With this breaking news stories that Trump's saying that the Ukraine war is going to be ended, that he's announced that on Truth Social. Well, hey, are we members of Truth Social yet? We've got to be on that thing. That the Ukraine war is going to be ended. We also got to cover the confirmation of Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, like, this is just all happening in one show. It's such a lot. Let's have a quick message from our partners. I'll see you in a second. 1775. Some companies stand for diversity quotas and ESG scores. 1775 coffee stands for bold flavor, real quality, and the kind of work ethic that would get half of DC fired on day one. If your morning fuel should actually taste like coffee and not like the liquid equivalent of Biden's farts, you're in the right place. Dark roast hits harder than a Trump tariff. Medium roast keeps it bold without the bitterness. And Vitality Mushroom Blend fuels the fight with lion's mane, cordyceps and reishi. Real energy, no synthetic garbage, straight from Bill Gates' lab. Yeah, real coffee for real Americans. Like me. Weak coffee is for the weak, and at Rumble, weak has never been part of the mission. No fillers, no shortcuts, and proudly backed by a platform that does not cut corners, water things down, or settle for mediocrity. For pods, whole bean, or ground coffee, head to 1775coffee.com, use the code BRAND for 15% off, and start your morning with coffee that stands for something. I'm still trying to think of a Mar-a-Lago question. I can't think of a good Mar-a-Lago question to win tickets to come and see me and Mike Tyson Tuesday night in Mar-a-Lago. You're going to have to sort of, we have to give things to the Secret Service and stuff probably. So you're going to have to send me a ticket. Why are 1775 giving away a Cybertruck? Yeah, I think that's how because I'm going to be driving around in that Saga truck. That Cybertruck. Apex Man 16, Russell Brand and Mike Tyson speaking at Mar-a-Lago. Sounds like a wild night. It's going to be great. I don't know what it'll be like. I think I'd feel a bit nervous about it, but yeah, we're going to do a thing for you to win tickets anyway. Brand will be boxing Tyson. Yeah, I actually, that's one thing I'm going to really try and avoid is any kind of physical altercation with Mike Tyson. I'm going to make that my utmost priority. All right. I thought you believed in worker rights. Trump disabled the National Labour Party relationship. I do believe in worker rights, myopics actually, but I also believe in an identity that goes beyond our role as workers. I think our primary relationship is our role and relationship with God. However, I don't much care for governance that disempowers ordinary people, whether it's in Britain, what's happening with agriculture and the disempowering and impecuniation, if that's a word, impoverishing of farmers. And I don't like to hear of anything happening in your country, America, that disempowers ordinary Americans, a people that I love. We're going to have a look at Donald Trump's recent announcement that the Ukraine war is going to be ended. We'll be talking a bit about Tulsi Gabbard being confirmed. I mean, I'm just going to tell you it. Tulsi Gabbard's been confirmed. That's good, isn't it? That's good news. And also, we're going to cover now these federal secrets, which I've been pretty fascinated to get on with. We'll do this story here, then we'll be exclusively available on Rumble. Okay, so this is about Representative Anna Paulina Luna. Anna Paulina Luna's name may sound like a tongue twister, but she is actually being transparent and candid. She's leading the task force on declassification of federal secrets, including JFK, RFK, MLK, all of the Ks, all of those assassinations we're going to get full transparency on, and we're getting the Epstein list, and we're getting the 9/11 files, and the COVID original stories. That's more transparency than I can handle. No wonder the legacy media is falling apart. No wonder we're all feeling a vertiginous grip as we try to cling onto a reality that roller coasts and bucking broncs its way through 2025. We've got so much to cover. Let's have a look at the announcement. Let's consider together, is this exactly the kind of candor and transparency that America voted for?
It is with profound honor that I have been entrusted by Speaker Mike Johnson and Chairman James Comer to lead the House Oversight Task Force on declassification of federal secrets. Together with the help of the White House, our intelligence allies, the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, we will be conducting investigations into the following: the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and Dr. Martin Luther King, unidentified aerial phenomena also.
In a way, I say that what they're indicating is this is a different era. If you can, in truth, reveal classified documents around JFK, but UFOs, and then more recent conspiracy theory treasure troves like COVID-19 origins or 9/11. If we're going to get files on Building 7, this is extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, in a way, isn't that more significant than anything else that's happening? Because it sort of shows you the skeletal infrastructures of government that we've long claimed are duplicitously run. If we start getting access to that stuff, I think that's more important even than like staggering and terrifying stories around the Middle East. Don't you think?
Phenomena, also known as UAPs, unidentified submerged objects, also known as USOs, the Epstein client list, the origins of COVID-19.
The Epstein client list. It's like she's reading like the menu for the beginning of this show, isn't it? On the show today, we're going to be telling you about JFK. We're going to be giving you the origins of COVID. Was Fauci lying from the get-go? Why do you need a pardon if you weren't? UFOs are real. They've always been real. We're going to reveal all of that to you in detail. There's not a person been assassinated in the 1960s that weren't killed by the government, and 9/11 was an inside job. I mean, this is coming out of the buildings of government. This is so radical and extraordinary and astonishing. I don't know how power structures can, as we've assumed them to operate, can be maintained with this level of transparency. But Whitney Webb is concerned, so we're going to be looking at that. Let's see the end of this announcement.
The origins of COVID-19 and the 9/11 files. This task force will be a beacon of bipartisanship. On the Republican side, Representatives Burchett, Boebert, Burleson, Crane, Gill, and Mace will be joining me, although I'd like to note that I'm expanding this to the entire governing body and will be allowing certain members to waive on. Our first hearing is set for March. The date will be announced soon, and we've already initiated close to a dozen communications with various agencies, to include Pam Bondi at the Department of Justice and the Secretary of State. This will no longer be a task force that makes bold promises only to fade into irrelevance or send strongly worded letters. This will be a relentless pursuit of truth and transparency, and we will not stop until the American people have the answers they deserve. We will cut through the bureaucracy, challenge the stonewalling, and ensure that the American people finally get the truth that they have been denied for too long. If we are to endure and thrive as a nation, we must restore trust. trust through transparency. The American people must be trusted to think for themselves, to form their own judgments from the truth that they are entitled to know. We've been treated like children for too long and kept in the dark by those we elected to serve us. It is my solemn duty to begin mending this trust, to form a new relationship between the government and the governed. Let us embark on this journey together towards a government that does not serve, but one that enlightens. That does not just serve, but one that enlightens. Trust through transparency, that begins now.
I can't believe that this is all happening. Can you? Let me know in the comments and chat. This seems implausible and ridiculous. She goes on to say that the JFK single bullet theory is plainly absurd and untrue. When Oliver Stone made the movie JFK that explored and exposed many of those ideas in dramatic form, people were like outraged. I don't think Oliver Stone's career ever recovered. Like what I'm saying is, as recently as the 1990s, you couldn't say stuff like that. Now it's in office. Now that's the voice of power. It's a show, Russ, someone says in the chat. Well, maybe, yeah, this is a sort of a reformation of spectacle. But I can't see how you can reveal, for example, if you start telling the truth about 9/11, start telling the truth about the murder and assassination of RFK, JFK, MLK, start talking about UFOs, I don't know how you will be able to maintain institutional power as we've long understood it. Let's have a look at Anna Paulina Luna. Anna Paulina Luna. Like, if you say her name, you want to move to Hawaii. Let's see her talking about the JFK assassination. And then, for a note of caution, we'll go to Whitney Webb, who I think is one of the best journalists working today. She's someone that was talking about the Epstein client list like years ago. You know when people used to say, all celebrities, they're all having it off, government officials have all been blackmailed because they've got sort of shady sex stuff going on in their past, and the deep state has information on them. Whitney Webb's been saying that stuff, and not only that, brought corroborating data so that it doesn't sound like marginal information from your Alex Jones and David Icke. And I think David Icke's going to come on, and I pray for you, David Icke, and I'm so sorry you lost your daughter last year. I can't imagine praying for you. This sort of information now is migrated from the periphery to the absolute center of power. Here she is saying, Anna Paulina Luna, that there's absolutely no way that a single bullet killed JFK. I mean, this is extraordinary, isn't it?
What's your priority list? Because Epstein, 9/11.
Our first investigation will be announced, but it's going to be covering on a thorough investigation into the John F. Kennedy assassination. And I can tell you, based on what I've been seeing so far, the initial hearing that was actually held here in Congress was actually faulty in the single bullet theory. I believe that there were two shooters, and we should be finding more information as we are able to gain access into the SCIF, hopefully before the files are actually released to the public.
There are unconfirmed rumours on X that Edward Snowden is about to be pardoned. I would say that Snowden, along with Assange, are cases that give you an indication of whether or not you can trust someone. You know, like in a fractured political space, you feel like, oh, these people believe this crazy thing. This government believes in these crazy ideas. If someone's like Edward Snowden should be pardoned, I feel like, well, at least they're right on that issue. You know, there's no way that dude should be exiled. Here's that rumour spoken by a UK sort of pundit. It's happening. President Trump is preparing to issue a full and unconditional pardon for Snowden. The man who sacrificed everything to expose the deep state's crimes is finally getting justice, and the corrupt establishment is in full panic mode. This isn't just about Snowden. This is about tearing down the surveillance state that's built to control you. Is such a thing even possible and plausible? Now, I find it pretty exciting to see these kind of extraordinary ruminations made public, and the new disclosures around JFK, and if there are indeed disclosures around 9/11 and COVID, it seems to me impossible that that wouldn't amount to a reconstitution of political power. Have a look at this note of caution from Whitney Webb, who I would have to say, if you were in a situation you had to choose whether or not to listen to Whitney Webb on this subject or me, I'd go with Whitney Webb. And I'd probably choose Whitney Webb over just about anyone. So let's see what she's saying. If you think the deep state was defeated and all you had to do was pull a lever or lever for the right team and you could just watch as everything's made magically better and do nothing but trust the plan and enjoy the show, you probably confused what deep state actually means with the wing of the uni party that lost last year's election. That's interesting. Is this kind of politics the end of the uniparty, or can it continue? Let's have a look. Why is it significant that Tulsi Gabbard's been confirmed? Well, because we kind of consider her, do we, fingers crossed, to be outside of those kind of power structures. Doesn't she reject donations from many of the economic interests that appear to own many of her peers? Mass complacency at a time of drastic, disruptive change is not a recipe for success. Interesting wisdom. Vigilance and scrutiny matter, as does taking responsibility for your own life. Who among us would quarrel with that? And community, instead of placing all of your hope for a better life and world in the government. Indeed, don't we think it's preposterous when people do that from a democratic perspective? These people are saviors. These people are heroes. No, they're at best flawed and fallible human beings. At worst, necromancers and ciphers for dark power. The images I had in my mind there were ciphers of European power rather than your country at the moment. That seems so radical to me that I can't even really get a handle on what's going on. Many of the people who used to distrust the system the most, and who also have most of the citizen-held weapons, I suppose she means online journalists and pundits, have been led to believe they can fully trust everything happening and let their guard down against tyranny. They may not physically come for your guns, but they can still attempt to cognitively disarm the American people. Now, when a journalist uses a phrase like cognitively disarm the American people, you know you're dealing with a refined and brilliant mind, because she's alluding, of course, to your Second Amendment rights to bear arms, and pointing out that just because someone understands the language and tone of conversations about personal autonomy and sovereignty when it comes to firearms, it don't mean that you can rely on them when it comes to your intellectual and spiritual freedom. She's demanding of us that we remain vigilant and awake when it comes to our leaders. And whether you're a pro-Musk Trump person or not, surely you would heed what Whitney Webb is saying there, because this is going to be a radical time. We haven't even got to the advent and intervention of AI and how that's going to impact power, because if AI, like all other forms of technology, is primarily wielded by the powerful, then that's going to create yet more imbalances of power. This is going to be fascinating and interesting time to remain alive. I can see that it's radically different, but that don't mean that it's perfect, as Elon Musk himself said. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments and the chat. We are going to leave now and go on to Rumble. We'll be doing another story over there if you're watching us on X. Remember, I'm going to do a question in a minute so you can win tickets to Mar-a-Lago to see me and Mike Tyson. That's crazy. That's only eligible, you are only eligible if you're a member of Rumble Premium or indeed Locals. I've got to think of a question. All right, guys, see you over there. Thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it. We're going to carry on for another half hour on Rumble. And yeah, as I say, join us on Rumble Premium. Okay, new Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth tells Pentagon personnel that a massive audit is coming. But they never pass those audits, do they? What's the point in auditing the Pentagon? They don't know where the receipts are. And they probably don't know where a good many